What did your parents do for a living?
Um, so I was just raised by my mom. You know, she had boyfriends and stuff, but I didn't have a dad. So my mom, she just had like a bunch of little side jobs. I think she worked at like a cell phone repair store for a few years. And you know what's crazy? I never really knew what my mom was doing. My mom was a very private woman. Like, yeah, very sneaky. She did what she had to. You know, I was never like super down bad, but let's just say I found more out about my mom in the past few years of her being gone than I think I ever knew about her when I was being raised by her. She had me fooled, that's for sure.
She has passed away.
Yes, yeah.
What age were you when that happened?
19.
And for time reference, it's May 2021. How did she pass away, if you don't mind me asking?
She overdosed.
On what?
She was a recovering opioid, heroin, you know, Percocet addict. She was actually about to do a fundraiser because she was trying to open up a resource center for addicts. She was 6 months clean. I think she was just partying with her friends, and it was a bad batch, like coke mixed with fentanyl. And she actually like snuck in my room and passed away next to me. I woke up next to her. It was really fucked up.
How detailed can we get with that?
As detailed as you want.
So take us back to that moment when you realize what is happening in front of you.
Me and my mom's relationship has always been really rocky. Like I mentioned before, any opportunity she had to kind of send me away, because I was on junior probation, so like she had the option to put me elsewhere for long periods of times and have other people deal with me. And I really had a chip on my shoulder because of that, so we were never really close. And then at one point in my life, I was living on my own with my friends, and she had called me back because she was recovering from her addiction and she wanted help with the kids because she knew that her and her current husband, it's been too bad, so they had to separate. So I moved back home, and I was really happy that she was sober. Um, yeah, it just wasn't supposed to happen. She was clean.
Was that something that you had helped her with at all on getting to sobriety? Or was that something that was out of your control? That was something that was going on without you, so to speak?
It was entirely out of my control. I was actually the only one that really saw through the bullshit. You know, nothing, it's not even, it's just addicts. Like, they have a way about them. They're, you know, it's not even entirely their fault. The addiction kind of takes over them. So I was really the only one that was seeing through the bullshit. And I was like, wait, no, stop giving her money. Like, stop buying her what she needs. Don't give her a car. And at the time, I was under 18, so I was over 18, so she had the power to kick me out. So around a bunch of enablers, I was the only one that was really sick of it, and I saw where it was going because of the things I did outside of my home life. I was very familiar with, you know, people that go down that route, and I didn't want that, but she kind of took it the wrong way. You know, nobody wants to be told, stop doing what you want to do. So she would have rather not had me around so she could do what she wanted.
Do you know how she ended up cleaning up?
She, since me and her relationship was so deteriorated, she, like, I think she craved, like, a kid around my age to relate to. So I think in one of the places she had went to help with her sobriety, she met a kid my age, and he was fighting the same battle. He was addicted to the same things, and she really bonded through that. Like, she kind of treated him like a son because her and I were so fucked up. Like, we couldn't even do that. I was out the house already. I was fending for myself, you know, struggling, hustling, whatever you want to call it. So she found love in him, and they really helped each other get sober. And yeah, he was a big reason. I met him a few times. He was really cool. I don't remember his name, but if I could find him and talk to him, I would. Yeah, he was a big part of that.
So now fast forwarding to the moment where she ends up in your bed and you find her passed away.
She was overdosing at the time. Like, so I had came back from a long night, like about 6 a.m. Not drunk or super fucked up, but I was a little tipsy. I was very tired. I came home and she wasn't there. Her friend was there. And I was just like, okay, wow, like, this is junkie shit. Like, I thought you were sober. So I was pissed. I was like, here she goes again. He was like, don't worry, she's just driving someone home. She'll be back. And I went into my bed. I fell asleep, locked my door, and I woke up the next morning to, like, him screaming her name. And my door was open. I was like, what the fuck? And then I realized she was next to me. And, you know, she wasn't answering, obviously. So when I realized, there's telltale signs, you know, like blue lips, shit like that. But she wasn't gone yet. I had called the police right away, whatever. Basically, like, at that moment, there was still hope, but it just didn't work out that way. They tried the machine and stuff. It didn't really work. But she could have woke me up. I think she knew what was going on. I think she knew that she was going to have to live with the things she's done for the rest of her life. And it does physically affect you, you know, from what I've known and from what I've seen. She wasn't physically the same woman she was 5 years before that. It has to hurt. And she really fucked it up with me, so I think she knew that. And I think that was probably her way of, yeah, she could have woke me up, you know? I think that was her, like, peaceful way.
Has this been the most impactful death in your life that you've experienced so far?
I mean, yeah, obviously it's your mom. But, I mean, I've never cracked. I have not cracked over it. Like, I can see why it's so important and why it's such a big deal, but to me, I lost my mom years and years ago, so I'm super desensitized to death, honestly. I wish I had more, you know, sympathy for it, because I lose a lot of people today, you know, that I either look up to or around me to the same type of fatality, you know, drug use, and I normalized it in kind of a way.
Now, she passed away when you were the age of 19, but when you say you lost her before that, at what age do you think you had quote-unquote lost her?
I think about 14 when I caught my first charge. Like, I stole a box of hair dye from a Rite Aid, and they caught me on camera, and they went to her, do you want to put her on probation? She said yes. And I think around then, when she kept sending me away to live with a bunch of fucked up kids at 14 and fucked up staff members and really bad facilities, like, those places are terrible. I think once I couldn't, you know, get an answer from her when I called, I think that's when I lost her.
Prior to her passing, do you remember the last time you had spoken to her in that, I guess, time period there?
Actually, the night before that, like I said, I got a few months where we were good because she was sober. She knew she needed help with the kids. She had asked me to move back in, and at the time, I had gotten in a car accident, so I got a lot of money, and I had just ran out of my money. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. I can't afford rent no more. I'm gonna go, fix things with my mom. So for those couple months, things were good. And I think the night before that, like, me and my friends were getting ready to go out, and she was getting ready to go out, and, she's drinking vodka, Russian bitch, and me and my friends are drinking Henny, and we were actually having fun. Like, we were joking with each other. She was like, oh, I'm gonna come with you guys, and we were like, shut up. But, I feel like maybe if she did, that wouldn't happen, but... Yeah, we had some, like, she had a really good sense of humor. She was really funny. She was fucking out there. Like, people say that have this energy. I definitely got it from that woman. Like, we had some good moments for those couple months before that happened.
Prior to the overdose, did you see signs that the sobriety was deteriorating? Or was that moment your first notice and last notice of that?
There wasn't any, like, telltale signs. I was really good at picking up on the bullshit, the junkie shit. I had a really good radar for it. But also, that made me have, like, the utmost respect for people that can find sobriety and really stick to it, because I think it was really just too much for her to live with. And, like, I think she could have stayed sober. I just think that she, like, didn't want to have to deal with those problems anymore. And that sickness, it's always there, So I have a lot of respect for people that make it a priority. I just don't think she had the will to do that anymore. But she wasn't, like, she didn't relapse. Like, I didn't see any signs of relapsing. I think she was just really upset at the fact that her marriage had been so fucked up, because she did so many fucked up things, and she had lost that, and she knew that it was coming to an end. So I think she just went to have a night out, and it ended really badly. A lot of people do coke. I didn't think she was relapsing at all.
So does this catch you when you finally realize what had happened and what's going on in that night, and you piece everything together? Did this shock you? Did this catch you by surprise? The overdose?
What was the most shocking part about it was only I was there left to deal with it, and I was the fucking person that she kept getting rid of. Like, nah, I don't want to hear what she has to say, because I was telling the truth. So around a bunch of people that were, giving her money and freedom and enabling her, they were all somehow gone that weekend. My stepdad had the kids, and they were in Vermont with no service. My grandmother was somewhere, and the one person who she kept getting rid of was there left to deal with it. So I literally had to, I tried to resuscitate her. I was the one who called the cops. I was running around the house looking for Narcan, which she showed me. She's like, Sabrina, which Sabrina is my real name, by the way. She's like, Sabrina, one day we might need this. Like, but she didn't tell me where she put it. So I just think I found it really ironic how I was the person who was left there, like, as if I didn't have to deal with enough. Like, now I have to live with that. But thankfully, I kind of don't. I don't, honestly, and until times like this where I'm telling my story, like, this doesn't break me, and I don't think it ever will. Like, I really don't walk around with this on my head. It doesn't weigh on me. I have so much more to look forward to, thankfully.
She has a funeral.
She did, yeah.
Did you attend?
Yeah, I showed up late. I was drunk. And I brought all my friends, because she has such a personality. Like, all my friends knew her. she would be like, "Oh, shut the fuck up," like they all really liked her. They thought she was funny, so they all had their own personal relationship with her, and they brought me. But that funeral was bullshit, man. So much fake shit. Other people were like, "Oh, she's a fuck up. Like she dropped out. She smokes weed." Then they all wanted to fucking, "I'm so sorry. Like we love you." Like people who gave up on me when I was fucking like 12. Like that's, bro. I've definitely seen the worst side of people, so I'm ready for fucking anything.
This was not your first funeral ever.
No, it wasn't my first, but it was like the most, I think, like fucking important.
Now, some people don't go to funerals. Some people stop. What is your stance on funerals?
Um, I'm gonna, if I lose anybody that I care about, I'm gonna go show my respect. I'm not, surprisingly, I'm like not traumatized. Like I would never bring that onto anybody else. Like I'll help set up the funeral. I'll help pay for it. You feel me? Like I wouldn't carry that on into any, like, I would hate to lose a person that I care about, but if did, I would go.
Now, I want to ask you this next question, but you may have answered it during this interview, but I'll still ask it anyways, just in case you have a different answer. But what did her death teach you? What did you learn from this, if anything? And if you mentioned it already throughout the interview, then that's fine. I apologize for the question, but
It's okay. It probably taught me that being a solid individual is probably the most important thing you can do for yourself, because nothing is a given. Like, even like the basic necessities that you're supposed to have in life, like parents, for instance. Like, that's not guaranteed, you're not entitled to anything. You really just have to roll with the punches, like, as best as you can. And it taught me that I am most definitely on this planet alone, and that's how I'm gonna go out, alone. So I'm gonna live my life until then.
what about when it comes to drugs? Because drugs was the cause of her death. What do you make of drugs? What's your opinion on drugs? I don't know if you mentioned marijuana in this interview, but I don't know if you had ever used any of the drugs that she had passed away on. I don't know if her death because of that changed your stance on those particular drugs or not, but I know I kind of asked you 3 or 4 questions in one question, but
I do drugs. It's not something that I'm like proud of, but I'm not gonna fucking lie ever. I don't lie. I don't do, fucking like hardcore street drugs, which eventually certain drugs she was doing developed into. But I don't know. I have so much. I just know myself. Like, I'm never gonna cross any line. I'm never gonna, like, even fucking recently, like 2 weeks ago, I had to literally give my friend CPR because she tried doing what I can handle, and it didn't work. Like, I'm never going to be that person, basically. Like, I have really good self-control, But when it comes to drugs, for me, I'm not proud of it, but it makes a lot of things easier for me. It makes, being in a room where all the attention is on me easier to talk to people. It makes less pressure. It makes certain things more fun. And I'm not saying, like, I'm not trying to fucking, this is an advertisement for drugs, but when it comes to me, like, trust me, I don't have absolutely any business doing. Like, I wouldn't be doing anything if it didn't, you know? And I'm not saying that I want to do those things forever. I definitely know that I one day I'm capable, of being completely sober. Alcohol, weed, I don't have any like super hard drug issues, but I'm gonna be honest. I'm like, it's not. You would think that someone that had dealt with that would have been like, oh no, like fuck drugs, but part of me sees why she liked him so much. It's fucked up, but it's just true.
And that was the basis of my question is, it's just like, for example, if you see someone pass away from cigarette smoking and maybe they're also a cigarette smoker, do they, all right, I'm quitting cigarettes now. This death changed me to go to the other side. I guess that's more or less what I'm asking here.
Most people do. I feel like most people do have that outlook, but I have so much fucking confidence in myself. I'm such a solid person. Like, I don't think one person's events would ever. I'm not gonna have those same problems, so I wouldn't. I just got self control, man. Like, I know my limits, and I'm not gonna cross them.
Have you ever been addicted to a drug?
Is like smoking weed every day considered an addiction? Maybe. Is that?
I would have to pull up the definition of addiction just to be
Other people think I'm
100%.
addicted to things. That's a fact. I can't help it, but they don't know what I know in my head about. Man, like I really can't even fucking explain it. Like I'm like you said, people will see someone die from cigarettes or vape and be like, "Oh, I'm never going to vape or smoke cigarettes again." Cuz that's a very it's super obvious. It's like the easy way of seeing things. But if you're as complex as me, you could be like, oh, I don't know, man. I just have the most faith in myself. I don't really have faith in anything like I got faith in me. So whether people consider me addicted or not, I promise you, I could stop fucking right now everything I do. And not many people are capable of that. But I think it's because I'm not physically addicted to anything. I just have my vices.
On helpguide.org, it says here, quote unquote, addiction involves craving for something intensely, loss of control over its use, and continuing involvement with it despite adverse consequences. Addiction changes the brain, first by subverting the way it registers pleasure, and then by corrupting other normal drives such as learning and motivation. Although breaking addiction is tough, it can be done. So,
Marijuana, I'm gonna be real, I do other things more so than I even fucking smoke. But bro, I really don't think I don't physically people I know, they'll be like people who sip lean, they'll be like, oh, if I don't sip lean for 2 days, I get cold sweats and those things don't happen to me. Like, I don't physically feel a withdrawal of things, and I literally just do it because I like to do drugs. Like, it's not some, I don't know. It's so fucking, that is very complicated because some of those things that you just read were like, okay. And then some of those things was like, okay, no, that's sheep thinking. That's like black and white. Like, not everything's so black and white. You feel me? Like, the things I do is literally because I have the freedom to do it. And it's not hurting anything. And if it ever were to hurt anything, I have this fucking self-will to not do it. But not everyone's the same. Addiction is really, it's a really bad thing. I've seen it firsthand. It destroys homes, it destroys lives, relationships, careers. It takes people away at super young ages, and there's a lot of evil to that. And I am so fucking grateful that I really don't think I fall into that category.
And for transparency, are you on any drugs right now as of this interview?
Yeah.
Care to share what?
I'm happy. That's all I'm going to say.
And just for the record, before she passed away in this manner of an overdose, you were using drugs.
Yeah, like, I've always been a really experimental, like, I was the first friend out of my friend group to try things, you know? I mean, I didn't start really young. I think I started smoking weed when I was, like, 14, and then I started doing, like, you know, other shit when I was, like, 18. But I was the first of my group, and, yeah.
So after she passes away from the overdose...
I do it way more now as an adult than I was back then, to, like, answer your question more clearly.
Okay. Well, how about this? At the time of her death, did you slow your roll with your drug use?
Yeah, I mean, at the time of her death, I wasn't even really, like, doing anything like that. Like, I'm a very honest person, so when I say I was experimenting things, that was probably, like, 2-3 times a year, maybe. Like, if I wanted to, if it was there, like, nowhere near to the level of what I do now. Right after her death, I was more so, like, just partying and drinking, and, like I said, I was the first of my group to even try anything, so there was not even shit like that around to be done. I was literally just being a kid, partying, clubs. Like, it wasn't like, you know, how the music scene is now, where everyone's, you know, doing other shit. So I was just trying to distract myself with, you know, life and fun. I wasn't really doing drugs like that, but it was all, you know, down. But, yeah.
After she passes away, let me ask you this. Okay, sometimes when people pass in a death of this manner, it can turn someone cold, negative, into a savage, so to speak. And then for others, they turn strong, positive, motivated. Did her death or her manner of how she passed away put you in either feeling here?
Probably more so the second one, you know? I've never really been like an cold or mean person by nature. I was always probably the sweeter friend of, you know, the group. I think then when that happened, it really showed me, like, okay, I am gonna be one of those people that just has a story like this, and I'm a really, you know, glass half full person. So when I'm on the bottom like that, which is inevitably rock fucking bottom, I just knew that it was gonna be like something crazy was gonna happen. Like it was gonna really turn around. And so I always had a more positive outlook on it. You know, me not having family like I want, it made me appreciate my friendships that much more and my relationships. So it made me really be like super hands-on with my friends. I've always been really super caring, and I'm always the shoulder to lean on, and I think that just kind of woke me up, and just to, like, you know, appreciate the people that appreciate me that much more. So I don't think it made me colder. It made me a little numb. Like, I don't feel things as, you know, most people would. Or, like, for instance, I'll cry over a boy before I cry over waking up to my dead mom. Like, it's fucked up. But it protects me in a way. So, you know, I also went to the club that same night. Didn't talk to anybody. people just kept sending me shots because, like I said, everyone in the town knew my mom, respected her as, like, you know, a hustler, solid Russian lady. And I was, like, her daughter that was doing my own thing in the streets. So I had a certain level of respect, and nobody talked to me. They just kept sending me bottles and shots, and that's just me. You know, that's just how I deal with things. So there's a numbness in that sense, but I'm also super. I have everything other than, you know, addiction, I have a lot of sympathy for it. Just because myself, I should have been like a junkie right now, just with my events of my life. Like, I should have followed in those footsteps and been like on the street, you know, whatever, fucking selling myself like a lot of other girls do when they're in those environments. But I didn't, and I never once came to even like deciding to do something like that. So I don't really have much sympathy for, you know, certain people with addiction. But for most parts of my life, I'm super, like, I'm there for you. You know, if I fuck with you, I'm there for you.
When it comes to your mother, what do you miss the most about her?
Um,
Is there a characteristic?
I think, like, you know, life advice, just because she maneuvered her way through so much and, like, made some things out of nothings a lot, and, you know, like, took care of me and shit. We were, you know, I wasn't dead broke, and I wasn't, like, middle class. I was somewhere in between, which was more so than a lot of my friends. So I was always wondering, like, how did she make that happen? So when it comes to, like, you know, life and finessing, I think she was really funny. I think we could have, you know, sat there and I could have got advice from her on how I handle certain situations, and we would have kicked the shit and laughed. You know, her personality is pretty funny. Like, I think I would have just, you know, liked to had dinner with her some nights, just kick the shit, laugh, talk about shit.
Do you have a favorite memory of her?
Yeah. At the time, I was pissed, but looking back, it's like, that's just my mom. One day, actually, it was right around right before she got clean. She had came to pick me up from my apartment, and all my friends were outside the window. Like, all of a sudden, we hear someone pull up outside, and it was like bumping "Yeah" by Usher, full fucking blast, in like a red convertible, and there was this girl, my mom, in a leather jacket with big black sunglasses, and she's sitting there like, yeah, yeah. And I was so fucking embarrassed. But, like, all my friends were just laughing, and they were like, oh, yo, your mom's here. Like, looking back, I'm like, yo, why was I mad? Like, she was so dope. Like, that's why I'm dope. Like, I don't know. At the time, I was probably embarrassed, but looking back, that bitch was funny, man. Like,
Were you doing music prior to her death or after?
after, yeah, like, only like 2 years ago did I really start recording.
Have you mentioned her in your music at all?
A couple times.
Ever made an actual song about her? Or it's more so just mentions in your music at this point?
Um, Not yet. I think about it a lot, but, like, sometimes it's just easier to make a song about something else, you know? The vibe hasn't really been. I'm gonna know when it's the right time to do that.
Did she do music herself at all?
No, but she loved music. She had a big love for music.
What do you think, and we're speaking hypothetically here, what do you think she would think that you have a music career path, that you're involved in music?
Man, I have no idea. It could have went one of two ways. She could have, you know, been asking me for money and shit all the time, or she could have been, you know, something else. I don't know. No idea.
Just curious there. And
basically, I would have loved to have been a family person. It just wasn't in my cards. Like, I love the family vibe aspect. Like, I would always be at my friends' families' cookouts and camping trips and barbecues because they all kind of felt bad and would take me in. I was always like the, oh, no, she can come. Like, invite her over. So I love that shit. It just wasn't in my cards. One day, though, you know, I want to have my own. I'm not like fucking, like, fuck families, fuck parents. Like, it just didn't happen for me. But I'm okay with that because I'm doing what I ultimately would have wanted to do with my life, anyways.